Hey guys, we have got a nice smooth shave coming up here with a soap that I really enjoy the scent of, performance of obviously. We're going to be putting this feather blade, relatively young, into this feather razor, the AS-D2, and the brush is a That Darn Rob with his Fanchurian knot, which has um, lightly gelled, and so it is very, very comfortable. So the razor is smooth as well as the brush in this case. I've had the brush soaking for a few minutes. I have another TDR brush that is the first one I got a while back, and it is lofted lower than this one. V1, V2 maybe is the knot that's on this one, and my other one is probably similar, but with the loft set lower, it's very significant in terms of the display is very different. This one's super easy to display, really comfortable, and the other one is not as much. It was borderline where I was thinking maybe I didn't want to keep it because it was resisting splay quite a bit, and but this one is different. All right. And the mail call that I did most recently talked about a few razors, and I've now shaved with almost all of them. I've got the satin version of the Mercure Futur to use. And here's the feather blade. I've got another feather. It's got like 60 uses on it, but I didn't want to use that one today. This is a stainless steel razor from Japan, and feather is it's a precision piece. Now it's not CNC milled, it is cast, I believe. And so it is different than a lot of the other premium razors out there right now, like the Charcoal Goods and Carve, but it is very well made. The knurling here is perfect. It gives you great grip, but it doesn't aggravate or it's not sharp at all. It's not too aggressive. It's just that perfect balance for me. The imbalance, the actual balance of the razor, sits in a wonderful sweet spot for me right there. And I think it looks pretty. It's a satin kind of brushed finish, not brushed, but just satin finish. The fit and finish of it is very professionally done. It's very well done, and it's all stainless steel. It's got the feather wording there on the top of the cap there. It is very mild and smooth for most people. I have been told that since it's made in Japan, it's made for that Asian market, and a lot of those people of that persuasion have a facial hair that's not like mine. That's thinner, more sparse, and so they really benefit, it seems, from this type of razor that's very smooth. Maybe their skin gets irritated with more middle of the road razors. And so that's what I've been told by some different viewers of my channel that seemed like they knew what they were talking about. I did have this model razor a year or two ago, and I put it through a good many blades, and I found that the feather blade, when put in here, of course the same manufacturer, so in a way it seems this razor was manufactured just to work perfectly with that feather blade, and it's probably true. That one worked well, magically well, just tremendous. There was maybe one other that I tried that did really well, but not very many others. And so since it's a little on the pricey side, I decided to go ahead and sell it. Well, I got a good deal on a box of razors, really good deal, and so it included one of these. It also included the Stirling razor, and so this one and the Stirling were the two that I was because I knew I would love this one. So I have it. Let me get my face wet. I am looking at a day and a half of growth, so it should be just fine. Now, you will definitely find people out there who would say that a day and a half of growth is something that they would want to bring in some type of aggressive razor for, and I guess it depends on your growth. but I have used mild razors to chop down 5-day beards with no problem. And I think I have an average growth. It's just that with good technique and a good lather, sure, maybe that first pass doesn't take down as much of the stubble as if it's a normal growth beard. But by the time I get to the third pass and it's a decent razor, then I'm in great shape. I've got a great shave. All right, so City Slicker. Is that what this one is? Yeah. Oh, it smells so good. It's a little light. It's a little quiet in the scent strength department. But what's there, I really enjoy. We will load up. These are really soft tips. I'm curious. Why don't we try a 20-second load? Now I'm going to get some water out of this knot. And 20 seconds sounds good. We'll start at the 05 mark there. We'll see if that gathers up enough soap. Sometimes maybe if you have a brush with really soft tips, you might want to change your time, your load time. Okay, there's 15 seconds. And there's 20 seconds. Let's just see how that does for us. If I have to go back to the tub, I will, but that'll be a good little bit of information to know. I could overkill and load by 30 seconds, but let's just play around a little today. City Slicker is one I've used recently. I told the story about how Rod released the City Slicker, and people just really enjoyed hating on it. They had all kinds of bad things to say about it, so much so that he got tired of dealing with it. People complaining the scent just wasn't there or whatever. And, and so he put it up on sale on his clearance section on his website, stirlingsoaps.com. But then he kept getting so many complaints, he took it off of the clearance site and threw away his stock because he felt that if people, even if he gave it away, he'd still have to deal with all this negative feedback. And I just feel horrible about that. He has such a great business and is wonderful for the shaving community that I hate that he, would have to deal with something like that. So I've been using the jigger method instead of my syringe that I've been using for years. I think I may be liking the jigger method better. I do have to be careful when moving around with the syringe. I didn't have to notice. If I nudged the syringe as it was sitting in its little jar, it wasn't going to do anything. But see, if I nudge that jigger and it splashes out, then that changes the water level. I can just feel the smoothness of this brush running around in this bowl. Big splay here, easy splay. To make this easier to fill up and see the 40 cc line, I put there's the mark, you might be able to see. Put a mark there, and that solved the problem that I had early on about it taking a little bit long to fill up and get accurate. By making a little Sharpie mark on that indentation, it's now very easy to see. So I am fortunate enough to be able to have gotten a tub of City Slicker before it went bye-bye. Just like all of Stirling's beef tallow soaps, it is wonderful. I've often just thought about learning to use the 3D modeling software. I am a programmer, and so I know I'd be able to learn it. I've started out in graphic design so many years ago, and I'm familiar with vector programs like Adobe Illustrator, and so I know I'd be able to do it. It's just the time, giving it the time. And I've always thought about, redoing this bowl. And the only change really that I would make, because I'm just super happy with it, is maybe adding some, changing the ridges here. The shape of the ridges that I have in this bowl, designed by Roger Quintero, are kind of come up to a little bit of a point, and here's the floor of the bowl comes up to a point where the ridges that I might like to have in there are more like speed bumps and more curved like that, with more of a convex curve instead of two concave curves. But other than that, like there's this divot in the middle that sticks up, and that is so good at keeping the brush from slinking down into the suds. And then what made me talk about it right now is, would I put the brush rest in there? Number one, I think this brush rest design is the best I've ever seen out there. With the two different U-shaped areas, I have not had a brush that wouldn't fit. The Pereira bowl and the Fine Accoutrements Lather bowl both have trays that are like a slice, a half slice of a tube, and so they are this U shape like that, but it's continual. And so if you've got lumps in your brush like we all do, then it could put the balance in a weird place, and some brushes don't sit on those types of trays, those types of holders, but this one accommodates and gives you room to sit. And so I've wondered, do I need a brush rest at all? Because this divot in the middle, I pretty much always have my brush like this anyway. I think I would also do like one of the other designs out there. Somebody took this very design from Roger Quintero's Thingiverse website, and the URL to that is in the video description. And they added, between the ridges, they added some bumps. Now I keep saying divot in the middle, but it's actually a reverse divot. It's a lump. And I like those lumps in between the ridges as well, so I might add that. Who knows? But I've thought, if I redesign the bowl, I mean, this is really the perfect size for me. But would I keep the brush holder? I don't use it. And see, it's masterful. Look how it is. It's great and perfect for holding a bowl like this. But I never hold the bowl like this. The bowl is actually so light, being plastic, that it doesn't sit in my hand with a lot of gravity, a lot of gravitas. And so holding it by the side kind of is not all that steady. And so I always find that I'm grabbing it by this flange at the bottom instead. And so I've thought about, would I bring that in if I redesigned everything? Well, this lather is looking terrific. So let's go. Stirling City Slicker. I haven't been feeling well the last couple days, and you probably hear it in my throat. I also may sniff. I will try to pause and do my sniffing and coughing off camera. Water out of the goatee, and sure enough, I am feeling the smoothness of this brush. I had another brush that I really enjoyed, but this one is just so smooth and so soft because of those jelly tips that it made me compare the other one, and all of a sudden it dropped down a few points because this one just made it, even though previously I had thought that it was super smooth, it kind of put it in a different category and let me know, hey, no, you think you know what super smooth is? You think you know that soft? I'll show you soft. I have a Frank Shaving Finest Badger knot that I got years ago off eBay. And they're a good company for inexpensive badger knots. And it gelled. That was my other brush that gelled. But it gelled in a way that, I don't know, it just didn't quite feel right. It felt more like a brush full of spongy tips instead of just smooth like this one does. Now, if that was a brush that I bought and I couldn't afford any more, I would be happy with it for sure. But we are blessed at this point in the shaving world with a lot of options. Some of us are, at least. Shouldn't take that for granted. I've got some folks that like Peter, who lives in dang it, it's I think southern China. Southern Asia. I think I usually say Southern Asia, but I think it's actually Southern China. You know, one of those things where I've messed it up in my memory, and so now I don't know which one it is, which one's the correct one, and I may never remember. But you know, he doesn't have access to a lot of the cool stuff we have here in America. And other people in the world as well. Just I know some South American friends who are kind of in the same boat. All right, here we go. So this is a feather blade that is going to be on its approximately 10th use. There are definitely plenty of people who think it should have been thrown away before now. I can feel the edge just a little bit, but it's not tugging. It'd be interesting to play around with this one with the feather blades and see if, as a mild razor, is it going to be choosy? Is it going to make blade choice important? Is it going to bark at me and not be as smooth if I, you know, try to use a blade that's had 10 uses on it or 20? Is it always going to require me to use maybe one that's less than 5 uses or something like that? But that was a nice comfy pass, and it is just going to be crazy smooth from this point out. All right. If my throat gets bad enough, the next video I may put out may have me sounding like Barry White. My throat gets all smoky and scratchy, drops an octave. Oh man, it just feels so good. Well, the 20 seconds, I've just put on the second pass of lather, and so all I need is one more pass, and look how much I have. I'm glad I stuck to my guns, tried the 20 seconds. Cross grain now. Again with the mild razors. I like to have a policy of gradual reduction. Not trying to go over an area tons of times to get a close shave. I'm not going to increase my pressure to get a close shave. buff certain areas after that third pass and do touch-ups, you know, if need be. But so often, if it's a good razor with a good blade combo, you'll just gradually reduce that stubble, and then at the end of the third pass, you're just touching up a little bit, and then you're good to go. And let's, speaking of touch-up, since this is a mild razor and I've got my trouble spot right here, we can take a little bit of that extra lather. There we go. Rinse now. And right there during that rinse, my face felt wonderful. Very slick, smooth. All right. Yep, still damp on my face. Just had to check if can't remember if I accidentally dabbed my face with the towel. This is pretty much a perfect lather here. It could go just a tad wetter, but really it's pretty much perfect. I want to go cross grain again. And I am hearing less hair hitting the blade than the second pass. Often with a mild razor, my hair grain goes down like this, across my neck, and down this way, exiting out right here. And so that's why, for the first two passes, you'll see me do this direction, which is cross grain right there. Third pass, I switch it and do this direction, which is cross grain from the other direction. But with a mild razor, I am often blessed with the ability to do an actual against the grain pass like that, and we'll try that tonight. I'll do that with I'm going to do the cross grain first. Lifting up my chin and also tightening up my lips. Really tightens up a lot of the skin down there. All right, very nice. So then I can grab a little handful of lather from the bowl, and let's try the against the grain with this setup here. That just is so rare to have that be workable. I did not feel it hit the hairs in the wrong way without cutting them. I didn't feel it pulling the hairs to where maybe it brings the skin up too close to the razor and gives me some kind of irritation. I didn't feel like, boy, you better watch out because you're going to stir up some irritation. I didn't feel any of that. I just felt hair cutting. I'll bet it'll have a very nice result, a very nice closeness here. And there we go with the lather. Now, a lot of times you can examine the lather that you have under your razor. Is it dripping off? Then, if you like wet lathers, that may be exactly what you want. Is it holding there? Do you see layer lines underneath to where the next lather that you shave off causes the rest of it to move down just a couple of millimeters, and so you see striations? In that case, that often tells me the lather was a little bit too dry, a little bit too thick. I needed to have added some water. But this right here, pretty much perfect. Just kind of rounded, very wet and hydrated, creamy. It's just the scent on this soap too. I do have this as a splash. I need to dig it out. Let's give myself a good rinse, and I'm going to check out the closeness. And that, my friends, is what the magic is all about right there. With many people who can go against the grain, an aggressive razor will give them a very efficient shave, and maybe they get in 2 passes what a baby butt smooth shave. You can't go against the grain with any other setup other than something so smooth like this one. I have just a barely bit of tenderness right here. It's very minimal. But the closeness is crazy. I don't even see the tips. I don't even see the end of the hairs, much less any length on any of the stubble in this area. That's how close it came. And it's a wonderfully close shave, much better than average for me, since so few can go against the grain for me. And so for me and my skin, which I believe it's kind of average, I don't think it's definitely not super tough. It's not super sensitive. Maybe it's somewhere in between there. But with the mild razors that are like this one, those are the ones that I have a chance of going against the grain right here. Other ones, average aggression, don't work very well going against the grain. So I have to stick with the cross grain going multiple directions. And I don't get as close, but I get really close. I go to businesses and it's close enough to where nobody cares, All right, now that I'm kind of touching it a few times, I do feel a little bit of the tenderness, but that's only because I was going against the grain multiple times, multiple buffing strokes there. But that's the kind of thing that a balm, why don't we just keep on rolling with Stirling? I'm trying to use up this Executive Man balm. Why don't we do that? If it would have been so great if when soap products come out, if I would have known that I liked City Slicker, if I would have known that it was going to get discontinued, I would have bought the balm as well as the soap. I think I actually may have 2 tubs of the soap, and so I'm glad that just worked out that way. And there we go. How much water did we use this time? It is about 18 milliliters. And that's almost 4 teaspoons. One might say 3 3/4 teaspoons, roughly. And after that experience, 20 seconds of loading, look, tons of soap left. I bet, yeah, I could do 2 passes with what's left here. I bet I could even squeeze out 3. So 20 seconds of loading, definitely. Oh, and look at that elasticity there. Nice. Good stuff. No dissipation at all. Nice, creamy lather. A few little tiny micro bubbles, but I used to think that meant that the lather may be too airy, but I think that's just because of the soap. I think some soaps just do that. This one does have the ridges and the bump in the middle, and you might think, hey, those ridges are adding those bubbles in there. But I've taken a totally smooth bowl, done the same thing with the same soap, and those little tiny bubbles are there. So if anything, it's the brush, the fact that we're using brushes. Excellent. Well, the feather did not disappoint. Closeness is tremendous. The fact that it was the 10th use of the razor, I could probably tell if I had a second use or third use, That's like the ultimate in smoothness for me, and the sharpness and the keen edge of the feather blade. Um, but the feather is going to be useful in other razors for sure. I always am just super careful with the edges, so I don't even touch them. Not because I'm afraid of getting cut, but it makes the blade last a lot longer. And then it makes sure that I'm not shaving with a blade that's been warped or anything like that. But it's a pretty razor. It's a bold looking razor that just kind of looks technical, um, robotic almost in some sense. I mean, look at these facets here. It is obviously designed with intention, and some of this, like these cutouts here in the corners, kind of resemble the Goodwill and some of the new and open comb razors of the vintage Gillette variety. The blade is held very securely, close to the edge on the bottom, and so that's something that contributes to the excessive smoothness of this razor. And that's something else that the some of the vintage Gillettes were kind of known for. Just an excellent piece. And it didn't have a problem at all taking down. 1.5 days of growth. The feel after that second pass, like I said, was just tremendously smooth, and that was the second pass. All right, well, enjoying the City Slicker. It's a nice transition to the Executive Man of the Balm. A great shave on so many fronts today. The Balm has already pretty much cleared up any tenderness that I felt in this area. So very nice one. And here's what this brush looks like after the shave, after the water was slung out, after the little bit of towel was used on it to get rid of the excess water. I really like this knot. Not too dense, not overly dense for me. Beautiful handle with the kind of mahogany colored wood there and the black. Just a classic look and a comfortable shape. I'm happy with the shape. Really nice. Yeah, from the side it looks just like the vintage Gillette Tex. So obviously that was part of the inspiration there. The support underneath, like I mentioned before, is close to the edge, and that helps you with those. You just didn't hear a lot of audio. No scrapey feeling at all. But another bit of support is that you don't need to adjust the blade. You don't need to check it after you tighten everything up, because it's the rails that are used to position the blade do so perfectly. And there's no variation. There's no wiggle room for the blade, so it's always lined up just right. So this is my non-marathon feather blade, and I've put the 10th hash mark on there. And this is usually when I'll pitch it and start a new one, because when I'm using it for testing purposes to try out new razors, most people don't go as far as I do, 60 uses with a feather blade, And so to keep everything kind of comparative, I will have I'll have my marathon feather blade, and then this one will just get thrown away a lot quicker, 10, 12 uses, and then I'll pitch it and get a new one. And so now that we've tried it at 10 uses, maybe the next time I'll use this same razor with a brand new feather blade, and we'll see how it feels and how it's different. The syringe may be nicer to travel with because it is smaller than this jigger setup I have, but I purposely chose the 40 milliliter, and I'm very happy with that because I haven't gone any more than that. And so I don't have to remember how many times I refilled my syringe. So I like that benefit over it. I noticed something recently, as you can see now, if you put the mini razors, if you have the other part, the base over here on the opposite side, then it will actually be a razor stand. And so if you want a makeshift razor stand to just help with the counter space, then this setup will do that for you. Well, my friends, we're all done. Great shave. Really happy with the whole gamut there. Hope there's been something in this one to help you out. I sure did enjoy it. City Slicker, the feather razor, the brush, it was all great. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and take care now.